bounces on the other side and tends to be like that.
A couple devotees started crying. It was because nobody ever spoke to them like that.
Oh, wow.
It meant a lot to us. It was really good. Let's see. Hare Krishna.
Bounces on the other side and tends to be like that.
A couple devotees started crying. It was because nobody ever spoke to them like that. Miranda, I just put this on YouTube. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and start. It's a little late for all of us, and we want to take risks. Goradraganya Gana Gotra Goloruharam Goranga Gudatama Gopyada Kolpa Briksham Gopalagada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshikavadam Satatam Namam Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachiya Dileka Kola Kahe Premananda Emona Goranga Hridoya Dariya Bola Bhaja Goranga Kaha Goranga Laha Gorangera Namare Jai Jana Goranga Bhaje Se Hoyamada Pranare Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Yashaiva Padamuja Bhakti Labhya Prema Vidana Parama Pumata Tasmai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Madgavirapi Gopala Srikriyat Kripaya Jadi Tadaiva Sambhaya Pitva Vishayustat Priya Janaha Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunatha Brajabala Pahimam Vanchakalpatarubhascha Kripasindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, nice to see everybody there. Rama Vihara, I hope you're okay. Good to see you. Thank you for turning the video on. Good to see you. So, as we were telling some of the devotees today, that my happiness is in small groups that we can nourish. So I do want to start today with chapter 6 of the Embankment of Separation. And maybe I'll begin reading. I want to just kind of skip through a little bit the first part of this chapter. And so it'll be easy if I kind of summarize and read a little bit and summarize a bit. This chapter we titled The Fainting of Sri Ramananda. And it begins with a verse from the 8th chapter of the Madhya Lila. Tabi hasi tame prabhu dekaila shri rasa raja mahabhava duye. These two forms, Rasaraj and Mahabhav, meaning Krishna and Srimati Radharani, they became one. They do Eka Rup, they combined as one in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And thereby they showed their real can you see Chaitanya Prabhu? Can you see this chapter?
We can see it on screen, yeah.
Yeah. So these two forms have become one as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So this is a very, very esoteric subject matter. And Guru Maharaj is speaking about it in such a wonderful, nice way. This is Embankment of Separation. This is a book which is full of esoteric rasa, which is something Guru Maharaj contributed to our ISKCON movement, which is something which is already there strongly in Gaudiya Vaishnavism, but perhaps hadn't been so much stressed upon by either Srila Bhaktisiddhanta or Srila Prabhupada in their preaching to the general masses of devotees. But Prabhupada requested my Guru Maharaj to preach to the devotees. So Guru Maharaj then begins this discussion by raising this question that the point, Mahaprabhu is a form of Rasaraj, Krishna, Mahabhava, Mayi, Radha, but how are they combined together and how confidential this is? And how Hridaya Dharya Jai Chaitanya Nityananda is Shabbat Siddhanta Shai Bhai Ananda, someone who has the heart, who's captured Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda in their heart, they'll be able to understand this. They'll know this Siddhanta, they can relish it. Bhadakoduna Sindhu Kwatiya Muhana. Lochandas Thakur sings that this mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is just like an ocean. And that ocean was blocked by a strong dam, but the Premi Bhaktas cut that dam down, and then the flow of the ocean began to gush out. So without the mercy of such Premi Bhaktas, we can't understand this very deep topic. That this topic, this Siddhanta, this Prema Tattva, is just like the newly grown twigs of a mango tree. Eshabha Siddhanta hoy amra palava. Palava means the new branches of the amra, of the mango. And they're very soft and reddish. And these newly grown twigs are very pleasing to the Premi Bhaktas, who are like cuckoo birds. But the Abhakta Ustrera, the non-devotees who are like Ustrera, like camels, they can't enter into this topic. They don't have such taste of it. So he quotes Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami saying that I offer my obeisances Ataiva Bhakta Gani Kori Namaskar to the lotus feet of these Premi Bhaktas. And by their mercy, I'm going to try my best to explain this Prema Tattva. And he sings a song which we often recite, Bhaja Guranga Kaha Guranga Laha Guranga Ranamare Jejana Guranga Bhaja Seho Amara Pranare. Now these devotees who are engaged always in Guranga Bhajan, these are my life and soul. So Guru Maharaj asks, who are these Premi Bhaktas? They're the eternal associates of the Lord. Ramananda Roy, Sri Damodar Goswami, Raghunath Das Goswami, Srivas Thakur, Prabodhananda Saraswati, Kavi Karnapur. These Premi Bhaktas, they've relished this nectarian Prema Tattva, and they can express it. So if we follow in their footsteps of these Premi Bhaktas who are Sakhi Manjaris, who are our gurus, then we can get their mercy. And after having their mercy, then we'll be able to relish this Prema Tattva. Those persons who have gotten this mercy of Gauranga Nityananda, especially Nityananda Prabhu, they'll be able to swim in this Gaura Rasa Mahasindhu, this ocean or the mill of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Otherwise, someone can't swim in it. We can't even approach the ocean, the shore of that ocean. We'll just be very, very far away from it, what to speak of entering into it and swimming. He says in such a very sweet way, Krishna Kun, could you maybe get me a damp cloth for wiping the table here? It's a little sticky. He says, so this is a very big topic. Ramar says, I'm confused. I've tried to enter into this big ocean and I don't know which way to go. This way or that way. It's such a big topic. Why did Ramananda Roy faint? And then he quotes two verses from the last part of this 8th chapter in the Madhya Lila, where Ramananda Roy is speaking to Mahaprabhu. And Ramananda Roy, he tells Mahaprabhu, Pahile Dekulun Tomara Sannyasi Swarup. At first, I saw you in your sannyasi swarup, in your form as a sannyasi. But Adi now, Tomadeki Mui Shama Gopa Rup. Now I see you in the form of a cowherd boy, Shamsundar Krishna. Tomara Samuki Deki Kanchana Panchalika. And now you're appearing like a golden doll. You're Shamsundar Krishna, Patana Gorakanti Tomar Sava Angadak. Your body appears covered with this golden luster. So Guru Maharaj says that Krishna is on the inside. Therefore, it said, Antara Krishna Bahir Gora. That sham form is inside, covered up with the effulgence of that golden doll. That's Gora. And this is what Ramananda Roy saw. Ramananda Roy knows sham because he's Vishaka Saki in Braj Leela. He also knows Kanchana Panchalika, that golden doll. That is Radharani. He knows both because in Braj Leela he's Vishaka Saki, and these two are very dear to him. So why did he faint when Gora showed him that form? That is the question. He's acquainted with them. Otherwise, how can he say Radhikara Bhavakanti Kori Angikar Nija Rasha Asraditi Kori Yachi Avatar? My dear Lord, I understand you've assumed the ecstasy and bodily complexion of Radharani. By accepting this, you're tasting your own personal transcendental humor and have therefore appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Roy Ramananda says this, so it's not unknown to him. There's no reason to faint. Then why did he faint? Deki Ramananda Hoila, Ananda Murchite. Murchite means to faint. Darite ne pada deha, parilila bhumite. Deki Ramananda Hoila, when Ramananda Roy saw Deki, this form, Ananda Murchi, great ecstasy, he lost consciousness and fell down on the ground. Darite ne pada deha. He couldn't stand up any longer. Parile bhumite. He fell down the ground. Why? What is that wonder? He knows all these things. It's not unknown to him. If someone doesn't know, he may be struck with wonder. But Roy Ramananda knows. So why did he faint? So I'd like to just say a few words about the position, the very amazing position of Ramananda Roy. Srila Raghunath Das Goswami, in his Manasiksha, in the 9th verse, he says something very esoteric. Mad Isha Natatve Brajavipina Chandram Brajavane Sharim Tanatatve Tadatula Sakitve Tulalitam Vishakam Sikshali Vitarana Gurutve Priyasaro Girindru Tat Preksha Lalita Rati Datve Smaramana. He says, my dear mind, Smaramana, you please meditate, you please think about that personality who's Krishna. Mad Isha Natatve. He's a controller. He's a lord of my controller. Vrajabetina Chandram Vrajavana. He's a lord of my controller. My controller is Radharani. Please, you should meditate on Radharani, who's the queen of the Vrindavan forest, and she's Krishna's controller. And you should meditate on Lalita. Tadatula Sakitve to Lalita. Tadatula Saki. She's the peerless, incomparable, Atula Saki, the incomparable friend of Radha and Krishna. And then he says, Vishakam Sikshali, Vitarana Gurutve Priyasaro. That we should meditate upon Vishaka, who's Sikshali Vitarana Gurutve. She's the guru who's teaching Radha and Krishna many, many different things. So these two personalities, Lalita and Vishaka, they appeared in Krishna Leela, in Gaura Leela, as Sri Damodar Goswami and Roy Ramananda. And Sri Damodar Goswami is a dear friend of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's a sannyasi like Mahaprabhu. And Sri Damodar Goswami is that, Roy Ramananda is Vishaka. Vishaka has a special relationship. Vishaka is the guru of Radha and Krishna, who's teaching them many, many different things. So in the Gambhira, we have Sri Damodar Goswami, who's Lalita, who's a dear friend of Mahaprabhu. And as a dear friend, he understands the heart of Mahaprabhu, understands the heart of Radharani. He knows how to do this bhajan. And so he's singing in a way to bring out the mood of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so Mahaprabhu can taste the mood of Radha. And then Vishaka, in the form of Boy Ramananda, is there, who is then speaking Krishna Katha. And that Krishna Katha, as we commonly oftentimes say, we gave some class last night about this subject, these two have an integral relationship, Krishna Katha and Krishna Nam. And this is the bhajan pranali of the Gambhira. There's kirtan, and there's Krishna Katha, and there's kirtan, and there's Krishna Katha. So I'd like to continue reading some. And actually, why don't I ask Vani Biharni, would you like to read a little bit? If I can put this on the screen.
Sure.
From the most acute.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? Oh, I see. The Acharyas have explained in this way. It is a question of viraha and milan, separation and union. There are 3 types of separation, and they are all discussed in Rupa Goswami's Ujjvala Nilamani. Similarly, as there are 3 types of separation, there are also 3 types of union, milan. The 3 types of...
So I'm going to comment this on this real quick. So this is a little surprising because you may remember from some of our previous discussions that there are 4 types of separation, 4 types of union. And so Guru Maharaj here is speaking about a different perspective of these subject matters. Go ahead and continue. The 3 types of separation, Bhavi, Bhuta, and Bhavan.
The 3 types of separation are Bhavi, Bhuta, and Bhavan. First, we will explain what is Bhavi Viraha, what is Bhuta Viraha, and what is Bhavan Viraha. With concentrated attention, one should hear about such topics and try to understand them. If Mahaprabhu will shower his mercy upon us, it will be possible. Akrura has come to Vrajabhumi to take away Krishna. He has not yet taken Krishna away, though it must take place. When the gopis think of this, they feel some pangs of separation. This is Bhavi Viraha. It has not taken place, but Akrura has arrived and must take Krishna away. At that time, they feel a pang of separation. This is known as Bhavi Viraha. Then Bhuta Viraha. After Akrura has taken Krishna away, day after day passes by. The more the days pass, the more the pangs of separation become acute. This is known as Bhuta Viraha. Then what is Bhavan Viraha? The gopis are looking on, and before their very eyes, Akrura is taking away their pranakanta, the most beloved of their heart. Akrura is taking away their life. All the gopis come and throw themselves before the wheels of the chariot. Our life is getting out. How can we survive? Let the wheels of the chariot roll on our bodies. Let our bodies be crushed. Let us leave these bodies. They are rolling on the ground now. This is known as Bhavan Viraha. The pangs of separation during this Bhavan Viraha are most acute. So Bhavi, Bhuta, and Bhavan, acute, more acute, and most acute.
So in Sanskrit grammar, this Bhavi Viraha is future tense. It hasn't taken place yet. Bhuta Viraha is past tense. It's something which has already happened. And Bhavan Viraha is present tense. So these are 3 words which are the same kind of meaning, Bhuvi, Bhuta, and Bhavan, but they're just different tenses. One is future tense, one is past tense, and one is present tense. Chaitanya Prabhu, do you want to read some from Expert Thief?
Sure, Prabhu. Expert thief. As there are three types of viraha, similarly there are three types of milan, union. What are they? Bhavi, Bhuta, and Bhavan. The same names are used: Bhavi Milan, Bhuta Milan, and Bhavan Milan. We will try to explain it. In Nidhuvan, Vrindavan forest, Radha and Krishna meet together. Krishna is there and Radha has come to meet him. That is Bhavi Milan. They have not yet united, but they are meeting together. Krishna is there, Radha is there. This is Bhavi Milan. The union will come later. Then when combined together, Radha and Krishna become one body. That is Sri Gauranga. That is known as Bhuta Milan. And Vishaka Saki has seen this. She is in Nidhuvan, so it is not unknown to Roy Ramananda. But what is it that he has not seen? He has seen Bhavi Milan and Bhuta Milan, but he has not seen Bhavan Milan. So now that was shown to him, and therefore he has fainted. It is not such an easy thing to understand. We have to go deeper into this ocean. This Bhavan Milan is wonderful. In this pastime, Roy Ramananda sees the Bhavan Milan. Previously, as Vishaka Saki, he had not seen how Nandana Rasaraj Krishna enters into the heart of Varshabhanavi Devi Radharani. Krishna was thinking that Mahabhav is there. That Mahabhav is there in the core of her heart, and I have to get it. I have to get it. Otherwise, my three desires will never be fulfilled. But how to get it? Krishna is very expert in stealing. In Stava Mala, Rupa Goswami has mentioned Kutiki Rasa Stoman Ritva. That Krishna, who is very expert in stealing, entered into the heart of Radharani and stole it. How? By putting Radharani into the fire of separation. Her heart is like wax. When you make a seal, you put the wax into fire. It melts, then you put the stamp on it. The Sanskrit word is jatu, wax. So Krishna, because he's very expert in stealing affairs, put Radharani into the fire of separation. When Radharani felt the fire of separation in her heart, that wax melted and Krishna entered. As long as it was hard, how could he enter? So first he melted it, and then he entered deeper and deeper into the deepest regions of the heart of Radharani. That is what Roy Ramananda had not seen before. But then he saw how Krishna was entering, and it was so wonderful that he fainted. Oh, Bhavan Milan. He had seen Bhavi Milan and Bhuta Milan, but he had not seen Bhavan Milan. Therefore he said, first I saw you were sannyas, then I saw Sham Goparup, a blackish coward boy. Then I saw a golden door before you, and your whole Shama body is covered with the effulgence of the golden hue. I saw this, but he had not seen the Bhavan Milan. How Krishna is entering into the core of the heart of Radharani. When he saw it directly before his eyes, he fainted. This is wonderful.
And this is a very, very esoteric subject matter. There's a wonderful appendix to the Narottam Vilas. Narottam Vilas is a book written by Narahari Chakravarti Thakur. And there's an appendix written by one of Narahari Chakravarti's disciples. Sometimes I tell the story, probably some of you have heard me speak this before, how Narahari Chakravarti, how once he was hearing about the pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his devotees, and he began to lament very intensely, how I never got to meet these devotees. How is it I'm so unfortunate that I've not seen them. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came, and I'm so very, very unfortunate. I didn't get to meet Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, and particularly he's lamenting about that. And suddenly he fell down unconscious. This was at the temple of Govindaji in Vrindavan, old temple. And he rolled on the ground all the way to the temple of Gopishwar Mahadev. And there he suddenly had a vision, and he saw Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, And Vishwanath was telling him, well, what are you lamenting for? Don't you see? And he pointed out so many different devotees who were there. And he saw Baladev Vibhushan, and he saw Rupa Goswami, and Sanatana Goswami, and he saw Srivas Thakur, and Gadadhar Pandit, and Nityananda, and Advaita. And he took and gave him the Nityananda Prabhu. Nityananda Prabhu said, what are you giving to me? And he gave him then to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, what are you giving him me for? He should give him to Advaita. He gave him to Advaita Charya, gave him to Gadadhar, gave him to Srivas, who gave him to Rupa Goswami, gave him to Sanatana Goswami, gave him to Gopal Bhatta Goswami, gave him to Jiva Goswami, gave him to Narottam Das Thakur, and all the way down to the disciplic succession until he came back to his guru, and he gave him to his guru, and then his guru gave him again to Nityananda. And at that time, Nityananda said, oh, now I'm very happy, because now he's coming from the hand of his Guru Dev. And then Nityananda Prabhu said, I'm going to punish you. And he grabbed him, grabbed by the hair, and he took his head and put his head on the feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he said, so now, Narahari, what do you see? And suddenly everything disappeared. And he no longer saw the Gopishwar Mahadev temple. He didn't see the devotees. Suddenly he saw Vamsivat. And he saw Krishna and Radharani. And Radharani was sitting on a golden throne. And Krishna was on his knees in front of Radha, and he was begging from her. And he began to describe in this appendix to Narottam Vilas the story about Narahari Chakravarti, which is very similar to what Guru Maharaj is speaking here. It's an esoteric point which is made by several different persons. I remember on one occasion many years ago, we went to have darshan of Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj when we were in Mayapur with the blessings of our Guru Maharaj. She's an old friend of Srila Prabhupada, one of his godbrothers. And we wanted to hear some Hari Katha. And somehow Maharaj was pleased with this, I think. When we go to see a Vaishnava, we want to please them. We want to give something to them, but especially want to please them by our sincerity. And if we please them by our sincerity, we get some blessings, but those blessings come in the form of Hari Katha. And I felt very, very blessed that evening by Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj. He became very, very excited and very ecstatic. And he began speaking and quoting this verse, which Guru Maharaj is quoting here, from Stavamala of Rupa Goswami. It's from his Dvitiya Chaitanashtakam, where he says, Kutuki Rasastomam Ritva, that Krishna entered into the heart of Radharani and stole that bhav. So Maharaj was speaking about it. This is something we've heard from my Guru Maharaj, we're reading today about. It's something also which is spoken about in this appendix to Narottam Vilas, in the story of Narahari Chakravarti. And Narahari, he saw Krishna on his knees begging Radha and asking her, please, Radha, please give me your bhav. And Radharani said, what do you want with my bhav? If you take my bhav, then you'll just become a mad person. And in separation from you, who knows what you'll feel like? Only Lalita understands at that time, because Lalita is a dear friend of Radha. And Krishna then began to beg, no, please, Radha, please give me. And Narahari Chakravarti is seeing this in his vision. And then suddenly in his vision, he saw Radharani speaking to Krishna. And Radharani said, but what will you do if you get my bhav? Your body is soft like butter. And if you get my bhav, then you'll be rolling on the ground in ecstasy, and your very soft body will be bruised. So let me cover your body with my complexion. And then when you dance in Sankirtan, in Premanam Sankirtan, feeling my bhav, and you start rolling on the ground, then my body will protect yours. And therefore, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has a golden body. So then at that time, Narahari Chakravarti saw Radha and Krishna become one as Gauranga Mahaprabhu. And then the vision broke and he came back to external consciousness, and that's another story. So this is a very, very esoteric topic within our Gaudiya Vaishnavism, we understand something about Bhavi Milan and Bhuta Milan. Bhavi Milan meaning union which is going to happen. It hasn't happened yet, but it's going to. And Bhuta Milan, union which has already taken place. Similarly, we understand something about Bhavi Viraha and Bhuta Viraha, separation which hasn't taken place yet, but which is going to, and separation which has already taken place, Bhuta Milan. But what devotees don't understand very well is this Bhavan Viraha, this Bhavan Milan, this separation and union in the act of happening. And Guru Maharaj is explaining this is a very significant point. Why Ramananda Roy fainted? Ramananda Roy is Vishaka. Vishaka's seen all these things. Vishaka knows Radharani. Vishaka knows Krishna. Ramananda Roy knows Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So then why is he fainting? He's seen Radha, he's seen Krishna, he's seen Mahaprabhu. You know? And he knows this Bhavi Viraha, this Bhavi Milan, this Bhuta Viraha, this Bhuta Milan. But what he doesn't know is Bhavan Viraha and Bhavan Milan. How Radha and Krishna, how Krishna entered into the heart of Radharani. And when he saw this, and he fainted. So then Guru Maharaj goes on in the next section of this chapter to explain how it is that Krishna entered into the heart of Radharani in a very beautiful way. So I'd like to put this on the screen. And Mukunda, are you alive? Are you there? Would you like to read? Find this thing on the screen.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I've got a very, very small cell phone screen here, so I won't able to actually see.
Okay. Hey, Manti, are you there? Would you like to read something? If I can, there it is right there. Would you like to
Sure.
read?
Yeah.
Okay, from Soft Rays.
Soft rays. An example is given. With the rising of the moon, the petals of a flower gradually open one after another. Everyone knows it. We see the moon, Chandra, and we see the closed bud of the champaka flower. But no one sees how Chandra, with the hand of his very soft rays, opens the petals of the champaka bud. This is Gaudiya Vaishnava philosophy. Everybody sees the moon and everybody sees the champaka bud. But how does the moon, with the help of his soft hand-like rays, open the petals of the champaka bud? Has anyone seen it? No, no one has seen it. Similarly, this is Bhavan Milan, and Ray Ramananda saw it. Gaura showed it to him. Ray Ramananda saw how Shama Shashadara, Shama, who is like the moon, was opening with his soft hand petal after petal of the champaka bud lying in the heart of Champaka Varani. Radharani, whose complexion is yellowish, like that of a champaka flower, and how he was gradually entering into the whole of that flower. That is what he saw, Bhavan Milan. He had not previously seen it, and therefore he fainted. Prema gradually increases to different states, from sneha to mana, pranaya, etc. There are two types of sneha, affection. One is grita sneha and the other is madhu sneha, ghee type and honey type. Radharani sneha is honey type. Madhu sneha and Chandravali sneha is ghee type, grita sneha. When there is union, ghee melts but honey becomes thicker. Honey does not melt when there is union. Because Radharani Sneha is honey type, at the time of union it becomes thicker and thicker. So how can one enter into it? In Ujjvala Nilamani, Rupa Goswami has described different types of kanta or heroines. One type is Swadhina Bhartraka Kanta, the heroine who assumes a predominating role. When she feels the pain of separation, the sneha melts, just as wax melts in a very strong fire. In the fire of the acute pangs of separation, the wax melted. It is not hard. In that fire, the petals are opening one after another. And Rasa Raja Nilamani, Krishna enters into the core of the heart of Radharani. Now he is hidden there. Outside is Radha's complexion only. This is Gaura. Where is Krishna? Krishna is hidden there in the core of Radharani's heart. He is inside, not outside. This is Tattva. Today, Ray Ramananda saw how, having entered into the core of Radharani's heart, Krishna became completely covered up with her complexion. This is the union of Radha and Krishna, the Bhavan Milan, that Gaura showed to Ray Ramananda. He had not seen it before, and therefore he fainted.
So many things we could comment on here. That Srimati Radharani's love is madhu sneha. It's like honey. And that honey, when you heat it, then it becomes soft. So Krishna, wanting to enter into the heart of Radha, as we described the story about the vision of Narahari Chakravarti, Krishna is begging Radharani to give him her bhav, but Radharani doesn't want to give it out of her humility. So what do you want with my bhav? So then Krishna, rasastomam hitva, he has to enter into the heart of Radharani and forcibly steal that love. So to soften that heart, he has to melt it, because Radharani's love is like honey. And to melt that, he applies heat, the heat of separation. And then with the soft rays of his hand, like the moon, Shama Sasudar, Krishna is like the moon, he begins to open the petal of a champak flower. And Guru Maharaj uses this example because a champak flower blossoms at night. It's a very, very fragrant flower. It's an interesting flower. The bees are not attracted by it for some reason in India. But it blossoms at night. It blossoms under the rays of the moon. And the petals, no one can see how the petals are opening. It is opening in a very mysterious way, little by little, under the effect of the rays of the moon. So the heart of Radharani melts over the heat of separation. Krishna enters into there with like the rays of the moon and opens up that heart. And he enters into the heart of Srimati Radharani. So oftentimes we mention how there's a controversy amongst some Gaudiya Vaishnavas. It's an interesting theological thing we should know about. The followers of the Srila Advaita Charya, they don't appreciate when some Gaudiya Vaishnavas say that Radha and Krishna have become one. And they say no, that there's also separation between them. And indeed, we see the fact that Gadadhar Pandit is considered to be Radharani. But then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Sri Krishna Chaitanya Radha Krishna Nahi Anya. He's a combined form of Radha and Krishna. And they, the followers of the way to charge, you don't appreciate it. They say, no, they've not become one in that sense. I would say that it's a subtle subject matter, and you could say it either way. And from the perspective that our Guru Maharaj is speaking about here, we can see that both things can be said. That Krishna is becoming one with Radha, but one in what sense? Radha Bhava Dyuti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Surupam. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami specifically says that he's Nomi Krishna Surup. He's the form of Krishna. But Radha Bhava Dyuti Suvalitam. He's adopted the mood and the complexion of Srimati Radharani. So going into the heart of Radha, he steals rasastomam hitva, kutuki stomam rasam hitva. Rupa Goswami says he enters into the heart of Radha and he steals her love. And then coming out, he becomes covered by her complexion. He has that bhav. But Nomi Krishna Surupam. He's Krishna himself. But now he's covered with the mood and complexion of Srimati Radharani. In that sense, because there's no difference between the mood of Radha and Radha herself, there's no difference between Radharani's complexion and Radharani herself. In that sense, Radha and Krishna have become one. But Nomi Krishna Surupam, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna. He's just adopted the mood and complexion of Radha. And some Vaishnavas, they point out that our acharyas have described that Gadadhar Pandit is Radha directly. But the difference is that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears on the Purnima. And if we fast for his appearance, that fasting is halfway in between the appearance of Radharani, who appears at noon, and the appearance of Krishna, who appears at midnight. Mahaprabhu, the full moon, is appearing just in between those two. That's Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But Gadadhar Pandit appears on the dark day of the moon. And some Vaishnavas have said that after Krishna takes the mood and complexion of Radharani, what's left, that's Gadadhar Pandit. I don't know, there's different understandings about this subject matter. I just wanted to comment on that way. So I'd like to stop there. In our next session, we'll go on. I think we'll probably finish this chapter. A very amazing chapter. It's a subject matter which is hinted at in different ways, as I mentioned, in few different places, but not in such detail that Guru Maharaj gives. And it's a very wonderful contribution, I think, to Srila Prabhupada's mission. Guru Maharaj in particular, on the desire of Srila Prabhupada, he wanted to give this esoteric understanding of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. He personally told me once, he said, there are three things that I'm very concerned about. The first is that I want to preach to the preachers. It causes me great pain, seeing the preachers falling down and going away. The second thing is that I want to show that everything is in Prabhupada's books. And those people who say that Prabhupada only gave ABC, I want to make them mum. I want to show that everything is in Prabhupada's books. And the third thing is, I want to show that everything is in ISKCON. So it was for these three purposes that Guru Maharaj spoke these kind of kathas, and that he gave this embankment of separation, especially to give faith to the devotees. So everything is there in Srila Prabhupada's mission, and everything is there in Prabhupada's books, and he wanted to preserve and protect the preachers. So I want to ask now if the devotees have any reflections or anything. Vana Biharni, do you want to share anything? Did you have any reflections today? Do you want to prize at all?
I'm just really grateful to be here. Thank you. Feeling a bit under the weather, but I'm glad I could come. Thank you for having me here. And also, one thing I wrote down was, you said you were reading that we should meditate on Lalita and Vishaka, and I was wondering if you could say something about that.
There's so much we can say about Lalita and Vishaka. These are the two most intimate associates of Srimati Radharani, and they're given so much stress by our Gaudiya Vaishnavas. And Rupa Goswami in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he says that we should meditate on one of the associates of Krishna and Vrindavan and try to follow in that mood of that person. So one way that we're able to do that, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta has given us in our Gaudiya Panjika. Gaudiya Panjika is our calendar, and he's given the appearance and disappearance days of different associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and describe who they are in Krishna Lila. So to approach Lalita and Vishaka is a very difficult thing, but we meditate on them as Sri Damodar and Roy Ramananda. And understanding in relationship with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's closer to our heart. And meditating on them in that way, we can understand their mood. So these are the two most intimate associates of Radharani. Lalita is a little bit harsh. She has a very strong kind of angry mood, and she's always chastising Krishna and telling Radharani, you should give Krishna up, and what are you doing? Don't listen to him. Vishaka has a softer kind of mood. These two gopis are the primary friends of Srimati Radharani. And in Gaura Lila, they come again, Sri Damodar Goswami, who's Lalita, the intimate friend of Radha and Krishna, has come as the brahmachari, Damodar Swarup, who took sannyas, but he didn't accept the dress of sannyas, and he stayed with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Gambhira. He was a sannyasi, but he wasn't interested in the formal external trappings of that. his sannyas was that he gave everything to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's Krishna, is wanting to understand what is the mood of Radha. So he can't do that on his own. He has to have help from Radharani's most intimate associates. So Lalita and Vishaka come. And Sri Damodar Goswami, who's Lalita, who's a dear friend of Radha and Krishna, and as the dearest friend of Radha, understands the dearest, most intimate moods of Radha, can sing songs for the pleasure of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to help him taste the mood of Radha. It's not just that he's singing the right songs of Vidyapati and Chandidas and others, but it's that he's singing these things with a realized feeling that Srimati Radharani has, so that Krishna in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu can taste that. And then Vishaka, who's the guru of Radha and Krishna, Vishaka Sikshali, who's teaching them so many different things, Raghunath Das Goswami says. Vishaka comes as Rai Ramananda. And it's Rai Ramananda who speaks this 8th chapter, this Ramananda Samvad, 8th chapter, the Madhya Lila to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, which gives all the esoteric siddhanta, the rasa tattva about Radha and Krishna, and indeed Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. And so these two are with Mahaprabhu in the Gambhira, Sri Damodar Goswami and Roy Ramananda. And the two of them are showing us, they're showing us how to do bhajan, and they're practicing it themselves. And they're helping Krishna in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to understand the mood of Radha. And so Sri Damodar Goswami begins by singing some appropriate kirtan to set some mood, which opens the heart. And then Ramananda Roy begins speaking about the Leela. And Mahaprabhu becomes in great ecstasy. And then Sri Damodar Goswami again sings. And then Mahaprabhu is able to taste the feelings of that pastime which Ramananda Roy just spoke through the kirtan of Sri Damodar. And they're perfectly enhancing this way the mood of Mahaprabhu and helping him to taste the mood of Radha. So they're very important personalities, Sri Damodar and Roy Ramananda. And we say the Super Raghu, or the personality who belongs to Sri Damodar, is Raghunath Das Goswami. And Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami repeatedly prays to Rupa Raghunath, the two most intimate associates of Sri Damodar Goswami. So Rupa and Raghunath are those Sakhi Manjaris. Tulsi Manjari is Raghunath Das Goswami, and Rupa Manjari is Rupa Goswami. And they've come in Gaura Leela to help assist Lalita and Vishaka, who come as Sri Damodar and Roy Ramananda. And then our Guru Janas, our Acharyas, they're further assisting Rupa and Raghunath. And this is why it's so important to assist Rupa Raghunath. And they're assisting Rupa Raghunath, and that's not mentioning that they're assisting Sri Damodar and Roy Ramananda. Rather, they're assisting Rupa and Raghunath because Rupa and Raghunath are Sakhi Manjaris. Whereas Sri Damodar and Roy Ramananda are directly Lalita and Vishaka. The position of that of the Manjaris is more intimate. And this is what our acharyas are coming to give. This is the Anarpita Chirim Chirat Karuna Avatana Karo, that thing which had not been given in a very, very long time. The Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to give. Anarpita Chirim Chirat Karuna Avatana Karo, Samarpayitam Unutal Ujvala Rasa Swabhakti Shriyam. That Unata Ujvala Rasa Swabhakti Shriyam. Unata Ujvala Rasa means that Manjari Bhav, which is Swabhakti Shriyam, something which he's tasting himself. And he's giving that through Rupa Goswami, and therefore we say that Sri Chaitanya Mano Bhishta, the Rupa Goswami is so important. We're not offering obeisances to Sri Damodar Goswami as the personality who's the chief in our Sampradaya. We're offering obeisances to Rupa Goswami, because Rupa Goswami is Rupa Manjari. And as Rupa Manjari, he's serving Lalita, who's Sri Damodar Goswami. And we offer obeisances, especially to Raghunath Das Goswami, to these two, Rupa Raghunath. And Rupa Raghunath Das Goswami is our Prayojanacharya. He's Tulsi Manjari, and he's also serving in that way. So that's a little light stuff for you to meditate on. Does that give some help?
Yes, thank you. I think I'll have to listen to that again and again and again. But thank you. You're always saying how Mahaprabhu is showing us an example when he's in Puri of how to do bhajan. And so I was thinking about, I was just wondering, Ramananda Roy, Swarup Damodar, and Mahaprabhu, for a devotee, is it like, for the devotee, it seems like, sorry, it's hard to explain. It seems like almost guru and disciple relationship, this kind of back and forth of hearing and chanting together, or also relationships between devotees. Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yeah, therefore we say the Vishaka Sikshali. The Vishaka is a Siksha Guru of Radha and Krishna. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur brings us out also in the beginning of his Harinam Chintamani, where he says that Mahaprabhu, although he's Swayam Rup Govinda, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and although he's Sarvagya, he knows everything, still he hears from different devotees. And he mentions how he heard a Mukti Tattva from Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, he heard Rasa Tattva from Ramananda Roy, he heard Nam Tattva from Haridas Thakur, and he heard Sadhya Sadhana Tattva from Ramananda Roy. And Ramananda Roy in particular was one of his personal gurus. So Mahaprabhu, he's teaching us, he's Krishna himself. Who is the guru of Krishna? Radharani is the guru of Krishna. But if we want to approach our Gurudev, it's best that we approach someone who knows Gurudev very intimately. And so Radharani, when Krishna approaches her and asks her her bhav, she says, I don't know about it, but Lalita knows. Sri Damodar Goswami knows. Vishaka knows. If you approach them, we can get something. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepts, he has Radharani as his guru, and he accepts Lalita and Vishaka as his guru, Sri Damodar and Roy Ramananda. Both to teach us that if we want to approach Radha Krishna, we have to accept guru, but also to practically experience himself, how that so that he can approach Radharani, he has to accept him as guru, and to give example how this is done. That we hear from Gurudev, and we have this very special intimate relationship with Guru through Krishna Katha and through Krishna Kirtan. And the relationship with Guru is not just something we do through giving money to the Guru or by doing some services or glorifying him or something, but it's through hearing and chanting. It's through that connection what Gurudev has to say, because that Katha is imbued with the feelings of Gurudev. Premamoyi Bhagavata Krishna Shiyanga. The Bhagavatam is the body of Krishna, but it's Premamoyi, it's full of Krishna Prem. And so when the Bhakta Bhagavat speaks the Grantha Bhagavat, he's speaking that with feeling. And when the Sishya has the Adhikar, the Shravan Adhikar, the qualification to hear, and that Shravan Adhikar, as we often comment from Ramanujacharya in his Gita Bhashya commentary, he says there's three things required for Shravan Adhikar: Pranipat, Pariprashna, and Seva. We have to submit ourselves to Guru. We have to inquire in a relevant, submissive way, and we have to render service, both to the Guru and to the message. And if we do those three things, then we have Shravan Adhikar, then we have qualification to hear, and then these things will enter into our heart. So it's not just the reception of information, like if someone goes to medical college or studies to be a computer programmer, they're trying to memorize some information. But in this case, we're rendering service to Guru and making our heart a proper receptacle. When Guru is pleased, through that Krishna Katha, that feelings, those mood enters into the heart of the disciple. And we can understand. So this is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was illustrating in the Gambhira with Ramananda Roy and Sri Damodar. Another light answer. Is that okay, Bana?
Yes, thank you for understanding my question. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I hope you're okay. Are you not getting sick, are you?
Maybe a little bit, not getting enough sleep, and it's getting cold here, but
yeah, it's getting cold here also in Hungary right now. In South Africa, where these guys are at, it's summertime there. It's in Michigan and Hungary. It's getting really cold here. If you see that, that's why these guys look a little funny, because Chaitanya and Mukunda, they're standing upside down. They're on the opposite side of the planet. Thank you, Don. Mukunda, can you, while you're standing upside down, do you want to share any reflections that you have with us for this discussion today?
Am I really upside down, Prabhu?
Maybe I'm upside down.
Thank you, Prabhu. I must say today's class was really, really sweet. It's I've got no words for it actually. But just to add, I've been reading the Antya Leela section of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and I'm reading the section of Junior Haridas. And somewhere in that section, it mentions that Mahaprabhu has confidential associates, which are actually Radharani's confidential associates. And you mentioned Ramananda Roy and Vishaka. But also there was a devotee, a lady, pure devotee. And she had a sister who Mahaprabhu instructed Junior Haridas to go and receive something from her. And we know what unfolded from there as well, But they mentioned two other very important confidential devotees of Srimati Radharani as well. Maybe if you have some time, you can elaborate on those two. But
those two devotees are Sikhi Mahiti and Madhavi Devi. Yeah, they're brother and sister. There's two brothers and one sister. Let's see if I can find something here, just real quick. We translated a section of a rare book a few years ago, which is attributed to Srila Kavi Karnapur, about which tells a story about Sikhi Mahiti and Madhavi Devi. Actually, of the two, I found that Sikhi Mahiti is even less described than Madhavi Devi, but both of them, there's very little description given of them. So there's a book called the Chaitanya Charitamrita Mahakavya. It's a Sanskrit book. It's considered to be one of the early biographies of Mahaprabhu. And it's interesting that Srila Prabhupada writes in one purport, he says that the author was not Kavi Karnapur, as generally supposed, and that's the opinion of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta. Now, that's a little interesting because I found in other places where Srila Bhaktisiddhanta quotes this book and attributes it to Kavi Karnapur. Now, maybe that was something that he did earlier on, and later on he changed his understanding. I don't know. It's not so important. Generally, it's ascribed to Kavi Karnapur, but some people say it's written by someone else. In any case, it's a very wonderful book. It has many details about Mahaprabhu's pastimes, in Orissa also, which aren't found elsewhere. And so in there, in the 13th chapter of that book, we hear something about Madhavi Devi and Sikhi Mahiti. And I can speak something to you about this story. It's an interesting thing. Have you been, Mukund, have you been to Jagannath Puri with us?
Not with you, Prabhu, but I've been to Jagannath Puri.
Oh, you're just cheating. You go there and you don't give us your association. It's really bad.
This was before I think I met you, Prabhu.
Bana Bihani, you've been to the village of Ramananda Roy and Sikkim and Madhavi Devi with us?
Yes, just this year, I think.
She's saying yes. We've been to so many devotees, I forget everybody we've been there with. So that place is called Bentapur. It's not far from Alanath. And it said that that's the village of Ramananda Roy. And Ramananda Roy, his cousin, he had several cousins, Murari, Sikhi Mahiti, and Madhavi Devi. And Sikhi Mahiti was the oldest, and then there was Murari, and the youngest was Madhavi Devi. So there's two brothers and one sister. And they were very, very dear to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes that these four persons, Sri Damodar, Roy Ramananda, Sikhi Mahiti, and Madhavi Devi, were the 3.5 most intimate associates of Mahaprabhu. And it's always a controversial thing because Madhavi Devi is considered to be a half associate. And sometimes the ladies, they feel a little unhappy about that. And even worse, sometimes some men, they say it's because she's a woman and women are less than men. And they speak some things which really doesn't make very much sense to me, because when we glorify Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we say Jai Satchidananda, we speak about her mother. When we speak about Radha and Krishna, we speak about how Radha is superior to Krishna. So by general nature, the feminine nature is the Shakti, and the male nature is a Shaktiman, the possessor of Shakti. And of the two, the Shakti is more potent. So how then do we understand that Madhavi Devi is half an associate? I did some research on this topic, and I'm going to go back to saying something more about Madhavi and Sikhi Mahiti in just a moment. I did a little research on this subject, and according to the sadhus that I spoke with in Jagannath Puri, they gave an answer that I found very satisfying and very natural, very simple. That Madhavi Devi is considered half an associate because she's in the body of a woman. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was a sannyasi. And as a sannyasi, and we're talking about associates, he wasn't able to interact with Madhavi as intimately as he did with Sikhi Mahiti, Srup Damodar, and Roy Ramananda. So these four are the most intimate devotees. And Madhavi Devi is mentioned very little. Some people say that she's like the mother of Gaudiya Kirtan. She wrote a number of different songs. We printed one of those songs in one of our Krishna Katamrita magazines, a very intimate song which speaks about the mood of Jagannath and how Jagannath is thinking about Srimati Radharani. So Madhavi Devi in Krishna Leela is described as Kalakeli Devi. She's one of Srimati Radharani's maidservants. And Sikhi Mahiti is Ragaleka Devi. Two very, very intimate personalities. So in the Chaitanya Charitamrita Mahakavya, credited to Ramananda Roy, it's mentioned there that Sikhi Mahiti, Ramananda Roy, and Madhavi Devi, Sikhi Mahiti, Murari, and Madhavi Devi, these were three very intimate associates of Mahaprabhu. And there's a story told, which is the only story that I know of about Sikhi Mahiti, and one of the only stories that we know about Madhavi Devi. The other story we know about Madhavi is what you were mentioning about Chota Haridas, how he went to beg some rice from her, and Mahaprabhu rejected him, even though Madhavi Devi was an old lady at that time. But to teach us that someone who's a sannyasi should be very strict, Mahaprabhu rejected him. So these three, Murari, these three siblings, Murari, Sikhi Mahiti, and Madhavi Devi, Murari and Madhavi Devi were very, very attached to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sikhi Mahiti was very, very attached to Lord Jagannath, and he was always meditating on Jagannath. And one night, as he was laying on the bed going to sleep, he started meditating on how he was serving Lord Jagannath. And he fell asleep and he had a dream. And he saw Madhavi Devi and Murari, his younger brother and sister, at the lotus feet of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then just at that time, suddenly Madhavi Devi and Murari came in the room and they woke him up. And they saw that he was shaking and trembling. He saw something very wonderful in his dream. And when Sikhi Mahiti saw Murari and Madhavi there, he jumped up and embraced them. And he said, I had this amazing dream. Just hear what I had. He said, now I understand about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's greatness. Previously, I couldn't understand. But in my dream, I was looking at Lord Jagannath. And then suddenly I saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu enter into Jagannath's body. And then he came out again. And then he went back into Jagannath's body. And then he came out again. He went back. And he came back and forth into the body of Lord Jagannath. And he said, and even now, after I woke up, I'm still seeing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entering into the body of Jagannath and coming out and entering into the body of Jagannath back and forth. He said, it's as though that now I don't know if I'm sleeping, I don't know if I'm having a vision, I don't know what's happening, but I keep seeing this thing. And Sikhi Mahiti started exhibiting all types of ecstatic symptoms. His hair was standing on end, his voice was choking up, and his tears coming from his eyes. And Murari and Mahiti and Madhavi Devi, they became very, very happy. And they suggested then to Sikhi Mahiti, he's just getting ready to go see Lord Jagannath, that we should also go see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the temple of Jagannath. So all three of them went to see Jagannath with a desire to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also. And when they arrived there at the Jagamohan Hall in front of Jagannath, they saw an amazing thing. There was Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu standing and having darshan at Jagannath with rivers of tears coming down from his eyes. Sikhi Mahiti saw, this is the same vision of Mahaprabhu that I saw in my dream. And he became very, very ecstatic. And then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu embraced Sikhi Mahiti. And Kavi Karnapur, he describes it, Tat Prabhat Yayam Amunya Padabja Vanva Ganda Lava Vimata Sarvam. Sarvaidaiva Nija Daivaitamena Sevate Pratidinam Guru Bhagya. And since that time, Sikhi Mahiti forgot everything. He just became a complete madman of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And he was serving Gauranga Mahaprabhu constantly. So what I understand personally from this story is that Sikhi Mahiti, who's considered to be one of the most important associates of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was an important associate by the mercy of his younger sister, Madhavi Devi. It was by her mercy that he got that blessing. When we go to Bentapur, we see the deities of Radha Gopinath, which were originally worshipped by Madhavi Devi. Her samadhi is there. And it's said that the local tradition that Madhavi Devi was given the service of compiling the Madhula Panji. Madhula Panji is like a record book of Lord Jagannath, a history book, and it contains also some astrological discussion. Apparently Madhavi Devi she was a Karna, meaning a writer, and she was also something of an astrologer, and which is in contact also with Ramananda Roy, because the Roy family, who are cousins, they're also Karnas, they also have that particular caste. And that's about all that I can really say about Madhavi Devi. But I don't think it means that she's a paraplegic, that she didn't have legs. She's a woman, and all women are less than men. I just don't find that satisfying at all. I find that very ridiculous and very sexist to try to say that. But it makes perfect sense to me that she's a half associate, because as an associate, she could only associate halfway with Mahaprabhu because he was a sannyasi. So is that Mukunda Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, that's quite a deep explanation. Thank you so much. I also wanted to mention something else, if you don't mind. You spoke a little about Narottam Das Thakur, and you mentioned something about Narahari Sarkar as well. And in the beginning of, Narahari Chakravarti. And in the beginning of the class, he also said that the mercy of Brahma Bhaktis is something that we cannot understand. Yet these Brahma Bhaktis, they hold the real wealth that people actually need. And Narottam Das Thakur sings one bhajan that came to mind when you mentioned that. It was Dan Mora Nityananda, Pati Mora Gaurachandra. And it's mentioned that Dan Mora Nityananda, that Nityananda is our only wealth. And somewhere it is said that Lord Nityananda, he gives the pseudo devotees their material desires, he fulfills it. But he does this to trick them from getting or attaining love of God. So I'm just, when you mentioned Narottam Das Thakur and Narahari, I was just thinking about this particular bhajan and the concept of wealth, how pseudo devotees, their concept of wealth versus these Prema Bhaktis, what their concept of wealth actually is, and the pseudo devotees, they go to even Guru for that matter, Guru give me this, Guru give me that, Guru do this for me, Guru save me from this, and kind of, always asking for some sort of material benefit from Guru. Whereas these Prema Bhaktis, Nityananda is their object of wealth itself, So I was just thinking, in my heart, when will this day come when we can hear from these Brahma Bhaktis? And when they speak of wealth, we immediately understand in our hearts what that wealth really is and be a part of that conversation and understand it. Just a thought I had.
Yeah. Narottam Das Thakur, he also sings it that Charya Vaishnava Seva Nishtarya Payecha Keva, that unless we do Vaishnava Seva, then we can't approach Radha and Krishna. So sometimes devotees, they serve Guru, but they don't serve the Vaishnavas. We should serve the Vaishnavas, and we serve the Vaishnavas by repeating what we've heard from Guru. That's the best service to Guru. We hear Krishna Katha, and we repeat that Krishna Katha. And hearing that Krishna Katha is a type of seva. And by hearing that, we're serving our Gurudev and we're serving the Vaishnavas. That's the best type of service. And by approaching that Katha in that mood of service, not in the mood of enjoyment, not in the mood of, this is very far out, I really like this for my pleasure, but approaching in the mood of service, then we can approach Radha and Krishna in truth. It's a nice point you're making, Prabhuji. Thank you. You always have very beautiful things to say.
Thank you much. I try, but these topics are so deep. Sometimes I think I may just be like a Sahaja saying things, I'm not sure sometimes. But thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you. Himanti, do you want to share anything? Are you there? Are you alive?
I'm alive and surviving, Madhavananda. Thank you.
When you speak?
Can you hear me, Prabhu? Hare Krishna?
We can hear you, but can we see you also? All the devotees would be happy. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for a wonderful class, Prabhu. I just had a small comment in the chat section, and it was just expressing my appreciation for Maharaj's explanation of such high prema of the gopis. And yeah, and I was also very grateful for the other devotees' comments and questions. It was something also I learned a lot from that. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you for taking part. When we come together with devotees, and even just for a few minutes, we read something and there's discussion going back and forth. So many things come out and many things happen. It strengthens our own personal bhakti and convictions, but it also creates a kind of beautiful sangha. And it's a sangha, a group that we travel in to the journey of the heart, to the lotus feet of Guru and Krishna. So thank you very much for walking with us in that pathway. I appreciate it, Monty. You're a good reader also.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Chaitanya Prabhu, do you want to say anything? Summarize things in the end here.
No, probably I think the class was amazing. I especially appreciated the pastime around Krishna stealing Radharani's bhav. It's just so sweet to understand, just to kind of get the opportunity to hear this whole pastime of Krishna going into our heart and stealing it, and then coming out again, and then giving it out, as you mentioned. Just also wanted to just make a note of your point around, following the manjaris and that type of mood. My Guru Maharaj also was, and he continuously does stress this, and he stresses to us recently as well, and telling us that their mood is more in the background compared to what happens these days, where a lot of people like to go and be in the foreground. And we should try and imbibe that as much as possible, get the intimacy through being in the background. We don't need to be in the limelight all the time. And it was interesting he was mentioning this, but in the same light he was mentioning, if a spiritual master obviously tells you to be in the foreground, then you be in the foreground, but you do it in the humblest type of mood, which is obviously quite a challenging feat to do. But interesting that this is the paradigm of our society, and he was just trying to stress that with all of us that we're listening to today.
My Guru Maharaj many times used to say that, look out for the back benchers. Devotees are sitting on the back bench, like in basketball or football, some game. Sometimes you have the first string players, they're going out, and they're the most famous, and everybody appreciates them. But then you have a few players who are on the back benches, and nobody really notices them. And Guru Maharaj is saying, these are the persons that you should be looking for, not just the persons like you're mentioning. Your Guru is saying, the ones who everybody gives all the respect for. He's a temple president. He's of this, he's of that. But I really appreciate your point, which came with a lot of personal realization, that even if your guru tells you to do some service like that, then we should do it in a humble mood, that I'm actually not doing this thing. And we can still be a backbencher in the sense that we hide our personal bhav, we hide our realizations. And maybe even externally, someone might be a little rough sometimes as a manager, because you have to be sometimes to manage a temple or something. But they hide their softness. They hide their real feelings a little deeper. So, anybody else want to share anything? Okay. All right. So it's really late, I think, right now. Chaitanya, have you put your son to rest yet?
Sudev is doing that today. That's off duty.
Okay, offer my pranams to Sudevi. We miss her association. Krishna Kun's thinking about her quite often himself.
I will tell her she can't. She's doing Bhakti Vaibhav with Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj as well, so she can't do two things at the same time. So she's missing out. So I'm doing this, and she's doing Bhakti Vaibhav.
The devotees are always very, very busy in this life up until they leave their body and they just go back to the spiritual world. And then they're very busy in the spiritual world also.
Also, thank you so much for, even through your busy schedule, you're always willing through every time to come and do this with us. And we really do appreciate it. It does make a massive difference to us for our week ahead and our meditation and all these kind of things. So thank you very much for sacrificing your time for us as well.
It's not a sacrifice, it's a service from me, Guru Maharaj. I'm going to try to please him. And devotees who want to hear something from his teachings, it's my service to my Guru Maharaj to do that. And it's a benefit for me. It's a benefit for me to do that. It's a benefit for me to get your association, to hear your different perspectives and things. I just wish that we could be sitting around in a circle in a nice room, candles or something, and reading this and take some prasadam together afterwards or something like that. I miss being in physical presence with the devotees very much. Anyway, thank you very much, Chaitanya Prabhu. So, as far as I know, my secretary managers here in the room, as far as I understand, next week should be okay. Yes, 22nd.
At 7 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah.
We are supposed to be driving from Budapest to Debrecen leaving here around 4 o'clock, and it's about a 3-hour journey.
Oh boy. So next week will be a challenge.
So
We'll see.
little iffy.
I'll just keep everybody informed. We may not be able to do it. Next week, we're on our way to Ukraine. Please give us some blessings. The devotees in Ukraine, they really need some association. They're really crying. We're going to go there with Naranja Marjan. It's not such a scary, dangerous thing. There's some danger. I mean, but we'll be in Western Ukraine. We're not going to be in the cities. We'll be in the mountains with a group of devotees and doing some Hari Katha and things with the devotees there for a few days. The Govardhan Puja and that. So I'll see about next week, but it doesn't sound real good, real positive. We'll probably be on the road at that time.
If 7 o'clock is the only time, then it doesn't sound so possible. If there is a possibility, I don't know if it's Chaitanya Prabhu, maybe this is crazy, but if there is a possibility for Sunday morning hours, that would be possible from our side.
So I think Sunday mornings, when you're saying early morning, I'm assuming, Sunday morning would be better than this time in the evening, to be honest. But we can adjust for what I think everybody knows at the moment that you're traveling and it's difficult to keep a fixed time. So let us know what works for you and Mataji, and we take it from there.
We'll stay in touch. I don't know, Bana, would that work for you? What time is it where you're at now, Bana?
Right now it's 1 p.m.
1 in the afternoon. So that's not so bad for you. Let's see if we did it about, well, it would be a little hard. It'd be like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning or something, maybe 3 or 4 in the morning.
I'm sorry, the class started at 1 p.m. So now it's later, but could work.
But it would be starting then about, say sometime between 1 and 4 o'clock in the morning, probably. If we did it.
Yeah. But
I'm sure you're up every day by 1 o'clock, right? It's not a problem.
Yes, every day, 2 a.m.
Anyway, we can discuss it somewhere in a little WhatsApp group.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much. I really appreciate it. Hare Krishna. I hope you all have a beautiful Kartik time. Shila Prabhupada ki. Go Premanandi.